So to start the research of this question, we looked at we read about 6 books on technologies that are actually, and what we wanted to know was when they're actually going to land. Because people talk about autonomous vehicles or biohacking or whatever it may be, but you never know if these things are real. Are they actually real? And when are they going to arrive? And how could they be relevant to education? If digital escalation is kind of the human race's next step in evolution, then what are the significant things that really could change education? And the thing that attracted us, and we thought absolutely obvious at the heart of this, is AI. Now, some people think AI is going to change the world. Well, it's here. Your banking app is an AI. It's not going to arrive at some point, like knock on the door and go, "Hi, let's go." It's seeping into everything we do, and it's not going to stop because it's incredibly efficient and it does things a lot better than standard technologies, and it learns, of course. Now, in terms of the timeline, 2024, we get to reasoning. Now, I'm talking about Siri and Alexa to a certain extent here. I'm talking about a voice, an AI that actually you can talk to, okay? 2027, social interaction. 2030, fluent in conversation. So that's 8 years away. Now, if you think, the Olympic Games in London was 10 years ago. So I went actually online to speak to, I spoke to, in a clubhouse, to the emeritus professor of artificial intelligence at MIT, to ask him a specific question. When will we pass the Turing Test? When did he think we will pass the Turing Test? For those unfamiliar with the Turing Test, that is the moment when you could be speaking on a device to an AI and you will not know whether it's a human being or not. That was devised by Alan Turing 70 odd years ago. He said, according to this, it's about 10 years away, 8 to 10 years away. And I said, do you think that's right? He said, it's probably about 5 to 6. Now, at that point, my AI, who knows me really well, who knew Man City won, will know everything about me. He will know I'm dyslexic. He will know I'm poor at maths, but I'm brilliant at art. He will know I love engineering drawing, but I don't understand dimensions. They will really, really start to know us individually, like a full-time, permanent personal assistant. We're that close to that landing. Now, this book, Sir Anthony Seldon wrote a year or so ago, controversial to some people. Education is always ripped in half by 2 sets of minds. The traditionalists, reading, writing and arithmetic, and the futurists who go, things have got to bloody change. We can't just carry on doing it this way. Life isn't about just a learning memory test. Anthony suggested a few things which were really, really interesting. One was the problems with the existing system, which you've got to put it in context. You've got to think of what are the problems in the system. Technology has made a bad system quicker, really. That's what it's brought at the moment. It's made it more efficient. It's made us be able to do things easier. Personalised learning is not really happening. Streaming doesn't work. It works for the ones at the top, but if you're putting the bottom stream, it kind of tells you that you're not very good at that, really, which is not a really good way to do it. We know that in private schools, where they've got the resource and they've got the time and they've got the smaller class numbers, they can personalise education to a specific child's needs, and they can really make a difference to that character across the board. So personalisation of learning, very, very difficult to do at a state level, very easy to do if you've got lots of money. Teacher as a resource. Teachers are leaving in droves, they're burning out. It's a horrendous job, doing lesson plans, marking all the work, dealing with the red tape, dealing with the kind of well-being explosion that's going on. And the other specific issue to this country is the fact that English education, worldwide private education, is expanding. There were only something like 4,000 international schools 10 years ago. There are now 12,000, and there's going to be about 29,000 in the next 10 years. They all want English-speaking teachers, and they're paying triple the pay. So that expansion will suck English teachers out of the system, and the numbers are small already. So something's got to give. And AI may be able to give that time back to the teachers. So let's just think of AI, instead of thinking of the dystopian, horrific kind of idea of children being taught by robots, forget that. Think, how can an AI give a teacher more time? How can the AI mark and assess certain subjects which are absolutely perfect for a system? Physics, learning how an atom works, quadratic equations, algebra. There's a lots of things that you just got to get through. That is the perfect stuff that AI can teach. It can either do it through voice or it can do it through interaction. But that stuff, absolutely no problem whatsoever. It can also mark it. It can give the marks to the teachers. It can compare all the different kids in the class and all the way they've gone about things and say, little Johnny there and Mary there, they didn't get this. You need to help them with that. The system can absolutely perfectly help and deliver bespoke education. In flexible pathways, we put all the kids all in one year group and go, you're all the same. Well, we know they're not. We know there are 10-year-olds who are better at maths than 14 and 15-year-olds, sometimes 16, 17-year-olds. Now, the idea that everyone born in the same year should be treated and pushed to education, learning all the same thing at all the same time, is not a good way of doing it. And social immobility. It isn't a surprise that the top 7% of jobs still goes to kids from private schools, because good qualifications will get you an interview, but character gets you the job. The idea that kids, mainly, without being too critical, and I'm not criticising the UK education system here. What I'm saying is the system has flaws. It's not anyone's fault. But the private educated world really does concentrate on helping kids. They can sit with kids, they can mentor them through things, they can build resilience, they can build character, they can build inquisitiveness into them, they can really bring them out of their shells and give them confidence. Those human qualities that it's really difficult to deliver personally in a state school. So there are inherent problems in the system. So this is, when in part of the research, and Anthony's book brought this up, Sentry Ai. So this is an AI. So don't think of this as being an iPad just with learning on it. Behind these interactions is an AI system that is watching what you're doing as you're learning. And what it can do is it can compare cross subjects. So it'll know if you're struggling with a subject in physics, it'll know that the problem is that you don't understand this concept in maths. And it can then flip the learning to explain that and then go back to the subject that you're trying to learn at the moment. So underpinning interactive systems is AI. It's there, it's working now. There are governments who are buying it because it helps them with countries like Nigeria, I think Vietnam, Malaysia, countries where they struggle to provide really good education are embracing this kind of technology. And you can see, visually, it can be quite interesting. It's not a painful thing. It's not a horrible experience. It's quite an interesting experience. And you can learn as much as you want when you want to. When the class finishes at night time, if you want to carry on, because you're really enjoying learning about chemistry or whatever it may be, you can carry on going. So you're not limited to what happens in that slot of time in the classroom. And the teacher is getting all sorts of feedback, so is the children. Now, there's things it'll never teach. It'll never teach creative writing. It will never teach music composition or dance or anything that's human imagination or all that kind of stuff. But a lot of the route teaching, fact learning aspects of education, it can do, and it can do very, very well. And all that time can be taken away from the teacher and given back to them to allow them to provide personalised learning, care, mentorship and guidance to the kids. So the other issue is that in a world where AI starts to change jobs, starts to change things like the legal profession, the accounting profession, people are going to retrain, people are going to need to relearn. People are going to need to leave school being resilient, innovative, inquisitive, socialised, confident, those characteristics that private schools can teach, state schools struggles with. You need that in a world where AI is going to change careers everywhere. That is important, and it needs to come. It only comes, really, through your experience of school, this fundamental moment in life. So, in our view, we don't need just more tech. It's not about tech. We actually need to just rethink what is school. Where do kids go during the day? Parents need them to go to school because they need to go to work. Kids need to go to school because socialising with other kids of your own age and age group and everything is important. You know what I mean? Standing up for yourself, dealing with the day-to-days of life and interaction with other children is important. Talking about what you've just learned in between the classes is really essential in terms of information exchange and understanding concepts. The physicality of being with children is incredibly important. So none of this is talking about getting rid of school. It's just maybe a different way of thinking about what school is. So fundamental to this as well is this study by Professor Peter Barrett from Salford University. It was about 7 years ago it was written. It was a study of 3,248 kids over, I think, a period of 3 to 4 years. And basically what it was doing was trying to create a piece of academic research that proved the contribution the design of a classroom makes to academic achievement. And it's 16%. And I've spoken to Peter several times. He's a really nice bloke. And he said, David, what most people don't get is that's per year. So in a standard primary or secondary school, the difference between the worst and the best classrooms is going to give you almost an entire year's worth of academic achievement more. That is enormous. It's the reason why I took the job at Space Zero, because I thought that was fascinating. And it's worth trying to build on that academic proof that the design of space can fundamentally help children do better at school. Because I don't believe that the education system thinks that way at all. It just thinks, I just need lights, a chair, and a blackboard, and I'll get on. It's all about just the teacher. Well, it's not. There is a contribution that the space has towards the child's ability to enjoy being there. He broke it down into 3 areas. They're quite obvious, really. Naturalness, CO2 levels, warmth, light, personal environment. This classroom for me. This is my class, that's my desk, this is my chair, that's my hook. I sit, I'm welcome here. And appropriate levels of stimulation. Now, a good teacher, you could put them in a dank, cold, dark cell and they'll teach kids something. Put them in a really lovely classroom and the kids will probably just enjoy it more. They'll probably learn more, they'll probably listen more, they'll probably engage more. So there is something that the design of space contributes. And stimulation is about the environment around you. Some teachers go completely the opposite way, and every surface of the classroom is plastered with work, which is a little bit like sitting inside a Quality Street tin. Now, it's like visual overload, and he proved visual overload is as much of a problem as underload when you've got a very boring space. Getting the right level of balance of stimulation, of inspiration. And this final piece of academic research, which I think is absolutely genius. Everybody talks about how do we create belonging. This model defines it. The classic moment is when a parent says to their child, from now on, I'm going to knock on your door, that's your bedroom. I won't come in unless you say I can come in. And you can put your posters on the wall, and you can paint it black, do whatever you want. My kids painted theirs black, it was a bloody nightmare. But from now on, that's your room, okay? You've given them agency. You've given them agency over a space that is theirs, and you've contributed it. They know the relationship between that space and their agency. It's exactly what you feel when you come back from a business trip and you walk through the front door and go, oh, home again, my belongings surround me. You have agency over your house. That's why it feels like yours. It's what you feel when you go to your local pub and the guy down the bar says, usual Dave? No, it's that level of agency, familiarity and knowledge. You know what I mean? That's what belonging really means. And the design of space helps with that entire process. It's just that people don't accept this and they don't even really think about it. So this is not architecture and it's not interior decoration. It's experience design. This is thinking about how all of this fits together. Because the design of space is actually a communication experience. And I don't mean in terms of graphics. I mean, it speaks to you. That's why brands, I've worked for years with Adidas and their battle against Nike. And they realize that most of their products, take the logo off, they're all really, really similar. It's the stores where you meet the brand. The vibe of the store. That's what the environment can do. That builds tribes. So commercial work is all about that. So business understands that the design of space is a communication experience that builds tribes. People get familiar with it. You know, when you go to the supermarket, the mall with your partner or friends or whatever, you walk in the mall and usually one goes, right, I'm going there, you're going there, okay, I'll see you there afterwards. All right, bye, off you go. You go to your favourite places. We all have our favourite places. We have, you know, whether you prefer Starbucks or Costa or Nero's or some kind of, you know, Black Cat coffee, whatever it may be. You know, you have your favourite place you like to go to. That's associated with the entire experience of that space. Business has to create places that people want to go to. So they spend an inordinate amount of time and quite a bit of money making these places very attractive to certain specific groups of people. And it works. And it operates on integrated systems, of course. Digital systems, which are going to fill up with AI. Business also understands that in the workplace, attracting and retaining the best talent is actually, there's a contribution the design of space makes to that. I mean, you think about it now, if you go for a job interview and you walk in, you build expectations, oh, it sounds great, wages great, packages great, you walk in and the offices are awful. You're like, oh, what? Shit, I'm not working there, you know what I mean? It really does. On the opposite, it's true. You walk into offices, somewhere they've got beautiful offices, you're like, oh, I just love the offices, you know what I mean? Do people really think about that? No, they don't, but it is massively important. The other point is, of course, if you're working in a nice place, you stay longer, you work later, you work harder, you enjoy being there, you actually go to work. I mean, in the world that we're in now, getting people to actually turn up is difficult. You know, office space more and more and more is going to get higher quality, better experience, possibly smaller space to pull people out of their houses and enjoy getting back together and socialising at work. That is going to be a massive change. And there's something in what I'm about to show, the work we're doing, that I think is very pertinent to the design of workplace as well. So it's a performance tool. The design of space is a communication experience and it's a performance tool. But apparently that doesn't matter for children. Business understands that to create a great experience, you have to consider the people, who is the target audience, the process, what journey they're going through, the technology, the environment, and the communications, all at the same time to create a really compelling experience. And we know how to do this. The adult world is amazing. Experience economy has changed the world we live in, but not at school. Walking to school, it's like going back to 1972. So the problem is, it's not I don't believe it's a financial problem, because you've still got to buy the chairs, the seats, the lights, the floors, the walls. You're still building the building. But your mind says it doesn't matter. I think it does matter, and I think it needs to be addressed within the industry. Schools are a very unique design problem, and it's taken me a long time to get my head around this. Sorry, this is quite difficult actually. So we have to stop building institutions. We have to take school out of being an institution where you have to go to, prisons, hospitals, etc., and put it into a learning experience and create a place that the children want to go to. They look forward to going there. They're excited by the idea of it. It's been designed for them, with them in mind. And we know how to do that. So in that case then, maybe the foundation stone for a new school and new principles from all that research is the idea of increased independent learning. Independent learning is famous in Denmark, where tutoring is monitored, mentored with kids, and kids learn in the context of projects. Digital up, every child should have a device, because then the AI can tie everything together. If you think of a really state-of-the-art office environment, you know, meeting booking rooms, post-occupancy evaluation apps, maintenance apps, all of that, the whole thing can tie the whole environment together. Teacher as a mentor, redefine the role. Basically, if the children can spend, say 50%, roughly 50% of their time working with their AI or with each other, learning and learning and learning, that gives the teachers about 50% of their time back to provide one-to-one guidance. Oh, superstar, thank you. We need to design for belonging. What I've just said, communicate, make the space communicate that we want you to enjoy being here. If you think about it, the opposite is also true. If you go into a place that hasn't been designed or considered, like doctor's waiting room, they're horrible places. You know what I mean? They are, aren't they? No one wants to spend the least time possible there because it's just a function. Yeah, if someone checked us into a rubbish hotel, we'd be like, oh God. You know what I mean? Adults, no. We wouldn't take your partner for dinner in a food court, would you? No, you go to a nice restaurant. The adults pick great environments all the time. At school, we don't think it matters for children. Doesn't matter. Yet they're there 8 hours a day, sat on hard plastic chairs, in white blank rooms with great floors that are easy to clean, and hubs of the like-minded. So when you go into a mall and it's full of kids on a Saturday afternoon, funny that, isn't it? They are dashing off to Nike, to Adidas, to Monkey, to Hollister. They're going to where they love going, you know what I mean? All the different groups and tribes. There is a lack of recognition, I think, in schools of the types of personalities. I've got 3 kids, 2 daughters, 1 boy, one daughter, classic drama queen, drama actor, actress. She hangs out with her acting mates at lunchtime. Jack is a nerd, he's a gamer, he hangs out with his nerdy mates, you know what I mean? Ruby's an artist, blah, blah, blah. You've got the people who like sport, you've got the ones who like technology. That's an unrecognised psychological grouping that happens in school. And I think that could form a key to how a new school could work. And then finally, design from the inside out, which is a bit of a bugbear, which is actually, what I'm trying to do is take this to REBA, to try and get REBA process for school design changed, because it works the wrong way around. We take a big plot of land, we work out where the cars come in, we start thinking about building, we get an accommodation schedule, we outline a load of boxes that will be facilities that have got, that's labs, that's hall, that's dining room, that's whatever, and the architect works out how they all go together, and then they start building it, and the construction guys come in, buying lots of steel and big trucks and everything else, and then right at the end of it, they run out of money. So they value engineer all the furniture and all the interiors and all the space again, and it goes backwards once again. Well, I say, design the inside, design it so it's a beautiful place that the children will absolutely love, cost it absolutely down to a T, and value engineer your bloody building. You know what I mean? Because the kids, you know what, funnily enough, they don't care what school looks like as a building, but I'm pretty sure they care what goes on inside it, because that's where they spend 97% of the time. Every day, 5 days a week. So, the intelligences. This is quite interesting, right? This is basically the different types of mindsets. People have different proportions of them, but people are certainly drawn to certain types of groups. Logical, expressive, rhythmic, kinesthetic. So rhythmic and expressive, fairly obvious. Kinesthetic movement, intrapersonal, the mind, meditative, spiritual, interpersonal, more social, outgoing communication, and linguistic, language, code, all these kind of things. Now, if you're talking about designing for belonging, creating spaces where you might choose to go, okay? So if you think of logical and you start to think, well, does it look a bit like McLaren? You think of linguistic, is that, or interpersonal, is that more kind of WeWork meets Starbucks? You think of intrapersonal, is it more like a spa, more like a health club, more like a country escape? Kinesthetic, is it more like Nike Town or Man City? Yeah, again. Don't want to keep banging on about it. Rhythmic, expressive, how do we create these, how do we represent places where these psychological groups may think, this is for me, I love it here, this is designed for me to do my work in, to spend that 50% of their time when they're not in normal lessons, because they will be in normal lessons, but actually working with, either collaborating with their colleague other pupils, or working with their AI, working through processes and learning. So hubs of the like-minded. So this is a standard school. We took 1,000 kids as a base model. We've designed hundreds of these, so we know how they work and what they need. Down the side here, you've got all the standard facilities. You know, the black boxes, the labs, the maker spaces, the dance theatres, all of those typical facilities. And then in the middle here, you've got effectively one massive learning commons. Learning commons is a new development that's happening in schools in Scotland that we're working with them in. They're very successful. And effectively, it's a breakout space. It's like activity-based working, but at school. You know, when you're in your office and you've got your laptop and you're working on something, you go, actually, I'm going to go over there because I can collaborate, or I'm going to go over here because I need to do some concentration, or I'm going to use a whiteboard over there. Is one of those free?
Yeah, me. Look thirsty, David.
So yeah. So if 50% of the kids are in classes and 50% of them are working with AIs, working on their own projects, then you need an enormous learning commons right down the middle of the school. So now we start to think of school as a series of areas maybe built around these intelligences. So, you know, where the sports hall is, you've got kinesthetic, and you bring in dance and physical movement. Where you've got logical, it's the science labs, it's the maker spaces. Where you've got intrapersonal, it's where it meets with the community, it's where relaxation is, it's where dining is. When you've got rhythmic, it's music, it's poetry, it's talk, conversation. Expressive, it's art. Of course, you put those two together. And intrapersonal and linguistic are the more quieter areas, okay? The more analog, the more word-based. And then right through the centre of it, you bring in a garden, right? You bring in naturalness, you bring in air, you bring in light, and you bring in growth. Biophilia, I hate the phrase biophilia, but biophilia you bring in. So you end up with a section that looks a little bit like this, and it's not about the architecture really as such, this conversation. It's about an approach to the design of a school. So it's a way of looking at, if we're building schools now, it takes 5 years to design a school. We may be designing schools made out of boxes that won't work for what we need going in the future. So now is the time to have this conversation. So a kind of a day in the life. So let's start on the first floor. On the first floor, we designed a completely new type of classroom. So in this classroom, you're working in groups of 6. The teacher is sitting in the centre area, mentoring. There's not very much route teaching, you know, standing at the front teaching like that. You're being assisted with your projects. You're having heartness sessions. You're talking to one another. And in the bays here, it's a little bit like a meeting room, really. You get to work with a small group. You've got a screen, pinboard, notice board, whiteboard, all of those kind of things. And you can still move it back and have a standard class, watch a film, discuss something, actually have a fairly standard presentation as well. So then we move downstairs to the logical area. So at the back here, you've got a standard science lab. You know, you will still be having Bunsen burners and burning things, you know what I mean? Absolutely, of course. But outside here is a breakout space. There's a glass wall in between, so it's acoustic. Sorry, excuse me. It's all right. I don't mind, but it's really difficult to concentrate with that and you as well. Sorry. So in here, you've got a standard science lab. That's all happening as usual. Outside here is the breakout space. So you might have someone sat in here, they've not attended a lesson over there. They're working on a project, but they've chosen to go here because they see themselves as being a bit more sciencey, logical, codey, nerdy. You know what I mean? It's there. It's the home of the nerds. You know what I mean? And you can see what the graphics are doing a job as well. They're bringing to life what this world is about. It's not massively expensive, but actually it's just been thought through. Remember what I was saying about combining communication design, interaction design, and environment design all at the same time around the mindset of a person. You're trying to say, this is for you. We're designing it so you will love this. This is intrapersonal. This is more calm. This is more meditative. This is more spiritual. It feels like a place where it would naturally be quiet. People would respect each other in this environment. That would be the nature of it. People would speak quietly to one another. So it's padded, they're looking away from each other, they're not collaborating with each other, they're spending time. Now you may be in here researching a piece of maths homework, but you've chosen to go to this place because you like this place, because you're doing a bit of concentrated work. You need to think. You need to maybe write. Discussion groups, maybe even book readings, talks, events, little fireplace chats. So now we're moving into the area where it's more like a typical library. So again, the graphics change. We're talking about the mind, we're talking about thought, we're talking about inspiration, we're talking about imagination. So now it's effectively, this is what a library does. I mean, libraries are weird, aren't they? No, if you go to a library now, they're like deafeningly quiet. You can't, it's almost hard to concentrate, I find, in a library sometimes. And the weirdest thing is everyone's sat there with headphones in, listening to stuff. It's like, well, what's the point in it being quiet then? I don't know. We all work on planes, trains, in Costas and airports and all the time on our laptops perfectly well. What is a library? Is a library at school actually about the love of the book? It's about reading. It's about sitting down. It's not a repository for books that no one ever reads. And your average library in the UK, I think it's something like 75% of the books have not been taken out in 25 years. So what is a library? It's a place to sit, read, love the word, celebrate the book, celebrate intellectualism. And then rhythmic break. This is TikTok, this is nightclub, this is bar, this is noisy. Why not? Why not have a loud, noisy environment? Because some people prefer that. You know what I mean? So at lunchtime, you've got a gig going on. There's a band. They're playing. Why not? I mean, why not? But schools are full of bands. You're sitting in here. You could be coding. You may be in here creating a presentation about your art project. But it's noisy and loud. I choose to go there because I like to be like that. We're giving them variety across the whole school, the freedom to be where they want, giving them belonging. They can find a home for their personality at that time of day with that task. At some point, they may meet in the sports area because they're talking about a sporty thing if they want to. But actually, they may just love the quieter areas. It's up to them. We give them a range of spaces. Now we move into kinesthetic. Now it's got really exciting. I shouldn't use Nike Town as a reference actually. I should use Adidas, but there you go. So here, it's got more vibrant to it. It's more competitive. This is probably noisy as well. And there's people dancing, and there's people shouting, and there's people, they've been given the permission to be noisy, to express themselves. Why not? This is not a school where you're sat quietly in a classroom being told things or playing outside. This is an activity-based learning environment where you choose to go where you want to go, with whom you want to be with, and you self-motivate to work to do what you need to do. How much of that it will work? Because some kids will probably not do it, but they may just love it as well, because it's a completely different approach to the way that a school operates. Expressive, drawing, presentations, art, graphics, art history, so you can see where we are. And then what would be very simple to do when every child has got a device is so that a teacher, so for instance, an AI may be able to say to a head of maths, this child, this child, this child, and this child, they're 10, they're 11, they're 13, and they're 15, don't understand quadratic equations or this aspect of it. So we'll set up a meeting for them to have a one-to-one with a teacher in a specific day, like you get invited to meetings on Teams to discuss a specific thing that is absolutely tailored for you. So we're working right across all the year groups as well. So outside of the classrooms, the year group breaks down completely. And of course, it would be solar powered, and it would have air turbines, wind turbines, and it would have vertical farming, would grow all its own vegetables, the whole lot. Why not at this stage just go the whole hog? You know what I mean? And we know that's probably not going to happen, but it might be interesting. Thank you.